Welcome to Kitchen Conversations with Jewel Diamond Taylor, the self-esteem doctor.
Wow, this is a full circle moment. Standing in the kitchen, this is where I started. What, in the 80s, the mid 80s? You know, my very first seminar was in the kitchen of my home. And from there, no turning back. Gone from local to international. Thank you so much for this time today. I love being able to share who I am and what I do.
Jill, why are you called the self-esteem doctor?
That's a good question. You know, I've done a lot of radio interviews and television spots and have a very populated website. And through the coaching, conversations revealed to me that women really needed a boost in their self-esteem. And I realized that that was a healing that needed to take place to pursue your goals, to manifest your dreams. So through my many conversations and coaching and counseling, I began to see a running theme, and that was 4 R's. I realized that the women wanted to have relief from their stress. They wanted to be more resilient when life hit them hard, whether it was divorce or unemployment or death in the family. They wanted to build up that resiliency muscle. They also wanted to enrich their relationships. And they also wanted to get some results. You know, they wanted to see something happen. So I realized in order for those 4 things to happen, I had to help them heal that muscle called self-esteem. When you have that muscle and it's strong, you have confidence, you have faith. And so thus the name began to grow on me, the self-esteem doctor.
That's wonderful. Now, I know as a life coach, you talk to a lot of women. What are the most popular, the most common question that you're asked as a life coach?
Well, it's not so much a question, it's a cry for help. Jewel, I'm stuck. Jewel, I don't know what to do. Jewel, am I too old? Jewel, I don't feel good enough about myself. And that's usually the jumping off starting point for me to help them with their cognitive behavior, to become aware of what they're doing to either sabotage their relationships or sabotage their goal setting. That self-awareness is so important. And so when someone comes to me and they realize I'm stuck, I'm overwhelmed, and they realize there's no shame in that. That's what I want them to know. That if we're going to heal some areas in your life, you have to overcome the shame and the guilt. And we're living in a great time now where people are feeling more comfortable to be transparent and to ask for help and realize there's nothing wrong with asking for help. You know, I tell people, don't come to me to do your hair. That's not my expertise. Don't ask me to defend you in the courtroom. I know my lane. And so I stay in my lane of building up emotional wellness in my clients and in the audiences where I'm able to speak.
Jill, how long have you been speaking?
I know I don't look like it, but it's been 35 years this year. 35 years of holding a microphone, standing in front of a camera, in radio studios, talking to people all around the world. It's been a wonderful journey, and I ain't tired yet.
That is amazing. Now, I know you have spoken all across the country and internationally, but where are you based?
I'm based in Southern California. A lot of people think I'm maybe in Atlanta or on the East Coast, but you know, I was born on the East Coast in Washington, D.C., but I live here in Southern California. And so it's great for potential conference leaders to know that it doesn't matter where your conference is, where your retreat is, where your church is. I get on a plane and I'm there to serve.
Now, is it true? I heard that you are one of the first African-American motivational speakers.
Well, as I look back, I began to realize that there weren't any that I know of at that time. There were male speakers, male motivational speakers on platforms. Of course, our pulpits were full of male pastors. But it wasn't, you didn't see too many women. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of an awesome conference called the African American Women on Tour. And there I began to grow, there I began to bloom and began to see other female speakers that were also growing. But I know in 1985, when I started, I didn't know of any Black females that was doing what I was doing.
So you truly are a pioneer and broke the mold. And as they say, you broke the glass ceiling and opened the door for many to follow.
With my high heels, yes, I kicked a lot of ceilings.
That is so important to know. Now, I also know that you have a 501c3. Tell us about that.
Yes, I do. It is called Women on the Grow. I've always been a connector. I always loved bringing women together. And I started off calling it the Enlightened Circle. And as I grew and as I began to understand and value my worth, I began to see that it was important to really create a professional structure. And we evolved to become called the Women on the Grow. And I love it. I love the tribe that we have now. We travel together. I host retreats for them. I do one-on-one coaching with them. I host conferences, Jeans and Bling. We do Sunday Flow. Oh my gosh, we're growing socially. We're growing emotionally. We're growing spiritually. We're growing in our finances. We're growing in our self-esteem. We're growing in our networking. So our events are not just about come and sit down and hear Jewel talk. They come and they make connections. It's a great networking soil.
It's an experience.
Yeah, that's right. I don't call it an event. It is truly an experience. We have music, we dance, we laugh, we cry, but most of all, we grow.
We grow. I love that. Now, going back to the word counseling, what is the difference between counseling and coaching?
That's a good question. I learned, you see, my education's in psychology, and I was always fascinated with human behavior. And so I've come to understand that a lot of women come to me because either they want a strategy. Jewel, how do I write my book? Jewel, how do I achieve my goals? You see, they want results. But then I put on the hat as a counselor. A lot of women, I find, don't have a safe place to land. They don't want to be judged by their family and friends. They don't want to be judged by their church community. They don't want to be judged. And so they find that this is a safe place to land, to share and not dump. But in the counseling, I'm able to give them a different perspective. I'm able to give them some scripture. I'm able to listen without judging. And sometimes people don't really want you to do anything. They just want to be able to exhale. They just want to be able to be validated in what they're feeling. And so in the counseling, I'm there to not only listen, but also give them a shift in their experience and a shifting in their perspective so they can see that this is not the end, that this has nothing to do with your self-worth. We all make poor choices. We all stumble and fumble. And we all need a place to say, you know what? I'm not feeling good about my life right now. You know what? I'm not speaking to my mom. Or you know what? I'm single. And you know what? I'm really going through and I can't express my stress that's happening on the job. I'm grateful for my job, but I need some counseling. Should I quit? I help them to understand there's a difference between having an experience that is futile, it's dead end, it's not going to bear fruit, or is it fruitful? And many times when we're overwhelmed with stress, overwhelmed with grief, we don't see clearly, and that's what counseling does. That's my style of counseling.
Okay, I see the difference. I'm just listening to you speak, and I'm just thinking of all the years that you have been speaking and traveling across the country, the lives that you have touched. Share some stories, or do you have any success stories of people who have let you know how you have changed their lives?
Wow. You know, when you do what you love, you don't do it because you're looking for accolades or awards, and I got walls full of them. But as the years have passed, people have come back to me through phone calls and emails and Facebook and said, Jewel, you know what, because of something you said, or because I said in your class, or because I came to your conference, or just watching your life, I've had women say, I'm an author now. I've written my books. There's a young lady in our tribe that came to me years ago, and she was young and she was quiet and she was shy. She didn't participate. She didn't have much to say. And as I watched her over the years, she became more vocal. She became more involved. She said, Jewel, I've always wanted to own a home. She bought a home with her husband. She started her own business. But most of all, she overcame a very dysfunctional childhood that was hindering her growth and her self-worth. That's one of my most proudest stories of overcoming and being resilient. I've had women come to me and say, Jewel, you know, I've started my business. I've had women say to me, Jewel, yes, I had to get through this terrible divorce, but I put my crown back on. I know my self-worth. I've had women come to me and say, Jewel, I was in an abusive relationship, and I didn't even know it was abusive until I was able to help them to understand there's all types of abuse. There's emotional abuse. There's physical abuse. there is financial abuse. And what I find is that a lot of times when we are isolated, that's how the enemy can make you feel like that's normal. But when you belong to a community of women that are courageous enough to tell their story, masks begin to fall, and they become vulnerable enough to say, I think I've been doing too much for my children. I realize I've been in an abusive situation. I realize I'm dating, and this dating is not getting me anywhere because I have forsaken my self-worth and I've become desperate. And that's why I wrote a book called Follow Your Heart, but Take Your Brain with You.
That's awesome. Now, I know that you're based here in Southern California, but do you have members in other cities who are Women on the Grow?
Oh, yeah. They're all over. I'm grateful for that because of social media, we can connect with women everywhere. I have spoken in London, Brazil, Cancun, Jamaica, the Bahamas, London, South Africa, the Virgin Islands. I recently went to Norway. And so I'm a communicator and a connector, and I make sure wherever I go, I remain connected. So yes, we do. We have sisters that have been with me and followed me for years in Indianapolis and Maryland and Seattle, Tacoma, Oklahoma, Oakland, just everywhere. So I'm really grateful that I lived long enough to see the power of social media and to use it in a positive way.
You've been a role model for many to follow their own passion, their own purpose. That's amazing. I know you have two very popular signature statements. You want to share those with the people who know you? Oh, that's Jewel Diamond Taylor.
I've had several, but the two that come in mind are stay in the light. Stay in the light. And I've had people come to me and say, Jewel, you've been saying that for years, and then the light bulb came on and I got it. And what it is that when we are operating in darkness, we run into the furniture. We run into problems. We run into the wrong relationships. The enemy has an opportunity to trick us. So God is the light of the world. His mercy, his grace, the strength, the guidance that we need comes from above. And so the word of God has so many references to God being light. So it's my way of saying, keep following God, keep trusting God. I know it doesn't make sense sometimes, but if we're not in God's light, then we're operating in darkness. We're operating in doubt. We're operating in depression. And so stay in the light is my mantra. The other is, as my self-esteem, got developed, as I stood firmly in who I am and what I believe I was born for, my other signature statement is, I was born for this. I don't want to do anything else but this. And I believe that when people realize their purpose and their passion, that sweet spot, and then you master it, and you don't apologize for it, and you study, and you serve, God will make a way for you to make a living. And you need to stand with power and authority, knowing that that's what you do well. And when you do something well, people will come to you to be served by your gift. So yeah, those are two of them. But you know what? There's another one that I get a lot of emails saying, Jewel, I always remember you saying, keep the main thing the main thing. And that's what I've been teaching myself and others, because so often we get distracted. They call it there's a syndrome called the shiny object syndrome. People will come to you and say, oh, come do this. Oh, try this. Let's go here. And you get distracted by that shiny object. But if you keep the main thing, you will excel. Yeah. And that is something I had to learn for myself, because people will come to me and say, oh, Jewel, you speak so well. You should sell real estate. You should do this multi-level marketing. You should do this. I'm like, no. The main thing is for me to keep the main thing the main thing. And
can I share one of my favorite ones?
Absolutely.
My favorite Jewel Diamond Taylor is procrastination is a thief.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It is, absolutely. And you know what? These statements, these affirmations are my own convictions. I've had to convict myself. I'm a recovering procrastinator, and I've learned to seize the moment, that when an idea comes or when intuition is speaking, act on it.
Yes.
Overcome the fear, overcome what other people are going to say. This has been my journey. And so all I'm doing is sharing my journey with others, that it works if you understand that time is tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And procrastination is not about being lazy. I used to connect those two words, that procrastinate is because you're lazy. No, it's fear. It's fear of succeeding, or it's fear of failing, or it's fear of what other people are going to say, or it's fear that I can't do it. And so that ties right back into nurturing a person's self-esteem, that when you know your worthiness, you will have the courage to take that leap. You will have the courage to say yes. You will have the courage to say no. You will have the courage to ask for help. You will have the courage to say, I want to be in that movie, or I want to be on that show, or I want to be on that stage.
Yes.
And you stop waiting, because it is the greatest weight loss program.
Yes, it
you
is.
lose so much when you procrastinate.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. You know, I'm looking, just reflecting on all of this conversation, and another gem in your jury box, Jewel, is that you are an author.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You want to share some of your book titles?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people think, is that really your name? Well, my father was a jeweler in Washington, D.C., where I was born, so I was really blessed to have this name. And I do make a lot of references, you know, to the jewelry box and the jewelry store and knowing your value. And yes, in my jewelry box are the books that I've written. And I've written a lot of books. And some of them are ebooks, but the very first book that I wrote was called Diamond Quotations. Then there were Success Gems and Sister Friends and You Deserve More. And even after my son passed away from cancer at 38 years old, I couldn't believe that God was telling me to write another book.
Wow.
In the midst of my grief, I wrote 2 books. The first one was I Am Resilient. And then I wrote, Thank God I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through. I wrote that 6 years ago. He's gone now for 6 years. And I realized that those books have empowered so many people. Because I realized that my pain became a purpose. And you see, when you don't focus on the pain and you transmute it into purpose, that is the grace of God. Because if you had told me that was going to happen to me, I would have told you I'll be crazy somewhere sitting in the corner pulling out my hair. But because I was born for this, and God's grace, it allowed me to pick myself up and say, Jewel, how can you bless somebody else with this chapter of your life? Because guess what? It is a chapter. It wasn't the end of my life. So I penned the book, I Am Resilient, and then I wrote, Thank God I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through. I also write books on relationships. Why? Because I wish I had the books that I have written. I wish I had it when I was a younger girl. Understanding the differences between men and women, understanding your value as a woman, understanding the traps that you can fall into when you are desperate. So I wrote the book, Follow Your Heart, but take your brain with you. Okay?
Yes, that is an absolute
And then I
must.
also wrote Shift, and I'm going to say that slowly. Shift, S-H-I-F-T, happens. And I wrote that because I do, I've done in the past, a lot of workplace training. I still do some, but for many years, I was doing a lot of government training. And they would ask me to come and speak because there were so much changes. There were so many changes going on with technology and just the fact of human relations, people working together. So I wrote the book Shift Happens, How to Cope with Changes in Our Lives on a professional level and a personal level.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, didn't you also write a book called You Are Too Blessed to Be Stressed? I was just waiting to hear that title come up.
You are so right. I did write. You Are Too Blessed to Be Stressed. Now that was, I believe, in the early 90s that I wrote that. And that was born out of stress. I was flying home with my sister Joy from a conference in Texas. And we both got on the plane at the same time. We both checked our luggage at the same time. And I had bought a lot of clothes from a vendor, so I couldn't wait to get home with all these new clothes. And we get to the airport, I believe it was the Ontario airport in California, and my luggage never showed up. And, you know, my hands went on my hips. I'm like, I know they did not lose my luggage. I had an attitude. And the lady who was handling the luggage, she said, It happens all the time. You just need to get over it. And as I'm standing there with an attitude, now the plane didn't crash. And God is saying to me, now Jewel, all that stuff could be replaced. You didn't have any emergencies while you were gone from home, and the plane didn't crash. You are too blessed to be stressed. And so that's how that book was birthed.
Oh my goodness.
And guess what? My luggage did show up the next day. But it was a lesson in patience and a sense of entitlement, and how dare the universe lose my luggage.
Okay. But you are too blessed to be stressed.
I realized I was blessed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see that all over now. And that's important. People know the origin of that story, because it is a very powerful thing.
And now it's everywhere. Calendars, cups.
And you are too blessed to be stressed.
I'm too blessed to be stressed about it. I'm like, you know what? God gave it to me. It wasn't mine. It came through me. And again, these are the type of things I like to help people to understand, that sometimes we are stressed, or we feel rejected, or we feel invisible because we feel like, I did so and so. But then you begin to realize we're just a vessel for God. Things just come through us. They come through us to be a blessing to other people.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I know that your audience wants to know, how can I keep in contact with you? How can I connect with you? I know that you're on social media. Mm-hmm. You want to share your podcast titles, your website address, and how you can be reached on social media?
Yeah, I'm on all the platforms. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have a website. In fact, I have two websites. I have jeweldiamondtaylor.com, and you can go to that website to learn about my books, to book me to come and speak for your conference, your retreat, your church, your campus. I do a lot of college universities. I also have womenonthegrow.org, womenonthegrow.org. My email is jewelmotivates@gmail, and I'm sure we'll put that on the screen.
Yes.
But I also have a 24-hour inspiration line. I've been doing that over the years. The number has changed a couple of times, but we do have a thought for the day line where people call me all over the world. It's amazing, the calls that I get. People just want that instant boost. Many of them call from their job or in the middle of the night, and they just get a 2-minute.
That's a powerful tool.
Message. Yeah. And that number is 310-526-2552.
Awesome. And you also have podcasts, right? You have podcasts?
Listen, I'm trying to let everyone have access to me on many different levels. I've got a YouTube channel. Go to jeweldiamondtaylor.com. And yes, I have so many audio podcasts on the website, jeweldiamondtaylor.com. And in the very near future, we will be featured on iTunes. But right now, my podcasts are on the website, jeweldiamondtaylor.com.
Jewel, you have, for over 30 years, close to 34, 35 years, you have gone around the globe inspiring people, changing people's lives, literally empowering them to live their dream. And now that you have your 501c3 nonprofit, how can they support you? Is there a place to make donations on your website?
Oh, thank you so much. I had to grow in understanding the importance of people having an opportunity to seed in to where they're growing. I often say, go where you're growing. And so many people go to my website, go to my YouTube channel, come to my events, purchase my books, get my coaching. And they ask me, Jewel, how can I plant a seed? Because I've been blessed. And maybe they can't do it at the moment that they experience Jewel Diamond Taylor, but they're like, you know what? I want to do it at some point in time. Some people say I want to do it monthly. And so that was so significant that we have that structure of having a 501c3 so that donations are tax deductible. So yes, we are legitimate, and they can go to either one of the websites, jeweldiamondtaylor.com or womenonthegrow.org, and they can do a one-time donation, or they can become monthly donors.
Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful experience being in your kitchen where it all started, all began. Kitchen conversations with Jewel Diamond Taylor. I kept thinking that the kitchen is where you prepare a meal, and this is where you prepare for life. And I want to thank you so much
for. Where does everybody go when people come to your home?
Go right to the kitchen. Yes.
And so, as a self-esteem doctor, I'm feeding the mind, the body, and the soul. It's a soul food, you know, that is good and it's lasting.
I like that,
And
soul
so
food.
my very first message was called A Food for Thought. And I was the chef. I was the chef, and I prepared a meal of thoughts because I really believe that how we think is so important. It shapes our life, the thoughts that we think. So thank you everybody for coming to my kitchen and having a conversation with me. This has been a blast. Thank you so much. And you know what? Stay in the light.